Right after the election, the railroad stocks soared, although they've since pulled back from their highs thanks to some hotter inflation numbers. Remember, the rails are textbook cyclicals. Normally, they're big winners when the Fed cuts rates, but if inflation ratchets back, well, traders are betting that maybe that we won't get the rate cuts. I say do not overthink that nonsense. Right now, the Fed is your friend. And that's what matters. Everything else is just details. Take CSX, the big East Coast railroad that rolled out some very bullish long-term financial targets at its investor day last week. If they can hit those numbers, this stock's going much higher. What gives the company that confidence? Well, why don't we talk with Joe Hinrichs? He's the president and CEO of CSX to find out. Joe, welcome back to Mad Money.
Great to be here, Jim. Thanks.
You put out some really bullish, what I thought, big stretch goals. What makes you confident you're going to hit them?
You know, several points. One, industrial development coming back to the United States. In our network, especially in the Southeast and Midwest, we said we can gain 1 to 2 points of revenue just from the industrial development. 500 projects on our network right now. And then in addition, the intermodal opportunity. Once truck rates come back a little bit, maybe diesel prices come back over time, we think there's 4 to 5 million opportunities on the intermodal. And then the investment we're making in our network, what we can do in places like Baltimore and other places. So we're really excited about the opportunity. And when rates come down, helps housing, autos, steel, things that we move.
Well, Joe, in the presentation, which was really fabulous, had everybody speak at the top, and I loved it, you did talk about first, industry went away. I mean, you really were very vocal about how it just disappeared, but now it's coming back, but it's a different kind of industry. Still good for you?
It is. You know, when you think about it, over the course of decades, we were moving manufacturing away from the United States. Now we're bringing it back. And maybe we'll have more conversation about that even over the next 4 years. But if it's in the United States, we'll move it, especially if it's manufacturing production. You know, we've grown the last 2 years in merchandise volume, but yet industrial production has been negative in the United States for 2 years. So even though this economy has grown, industrial hasn't. So if we see that come back, even more bullish for our business.
Look, if you take President-elect Trump at his word, then there'll be more reshoring, and that every time a company has to react to tariffs and maybe has to build here, there's a good chance, because your network's so vast, it may hit you.
That's right. 500 projects on our network as we speak right now. Another 1,000 sites in our inventory as possibilities. When people want to build big projects in the U.S., where do they go? Most time, Southeast, or even a little bit of the Midwest or Texas. But we're the dominant player in the Southeast, really helps us.
Now, I can't ask you to opine on the stock. That's what I do. But I'm looking at Norfolk Southern, seems a little expensive to me. Union Pacific, a little expensive. You have dramatically outperformed your peers from 2016 to 2023. I'll let you have the floor to tell me how you did that.
Well, I think first of all, we rationalized the network and really cut costs to become an efficient network. Then we took our operating model and we started turning it around and saying, you know what, how do we leverage this strong operating model to serve our customers better? We're the only Class 1 railroad the last 2 years that's grown merchandise volume. That's because of our service levels. It's our people doing that. And we said, you know what, let's change the culture. Let's stop fighting for 200 years with our employees. Let's bring them as part of the equation, help them become better at serving customers, help us grow the business.
That's a lesson that I wish others would not ignore, so to speak. You have good labor relations, and you think they are important to the success of your enterprise. Why do you see it that way, and so many other people want to fight the last war here?
You know, at the most basic part, we're a service business. The best service businesses have their employees that are engaged in wanting to provide that service. They're motivated, they're part of the organization. So let's start there. We're a service business. Our employees move the goods that we get paid for, you know, and then how do we engage with them to help us provide better service to customer? People don't come in at a restaurant or a railroad and say, I want to serve people poorly today. Make them part of that solution. We serve customers better. People will come back to rail because we have all kinds of advantages.
Well, I wasn't really a topic of your day, but I think people want to know, casual people who are not the analysts, how did you solve that Baltimore terrible tragedy? How were you able to make it so that everyone told me you'd be offline for months? That wasn't the case at all.
Well, first of all, I got to give a lot of credit to the Army Corps of Engineers and everyone involved in Baltimore when the Francis Scott Key Bridge came down. They got to work quickly in 2 months or less to clear that port. For us, we went to, within 2 days, we set up an intermodal service with our employees from New York, New Jersey to Baltimore to get them containers back and forth. Within 2 days, we had people willing to transfer to help make that happen because we needed more employees away from Baltimore and other places. Again, testament to the culture, the people being part of the solution. If you ask them, engage with them, they'll help you make it happen.
Well, there you go. That's a nice lesson to learn. I hope everybody hears that. Now, what if China trade drops off? That doesn't mean trade drops off. You're an East Coast provider. Would there be more from from Europe? And what will happen geographically? What are you thinking about could happen?
Well, no, from our standpoint, actually, as long as it's coming to the U.S., we're going to move it somewhere.
Okay, right.
If it comes to the western ports and it needs to go to the east because 2/3 of the population are in our network,
right,
it'll come across and we'll get it in Chicago or Memphis or somewhere and we'll move it over. If it comes to the east coast, actually a lot of times it gets trucked from the port to a big city because it's right here.
Point.
So actually, but if it's made in America, we'll move it on rail. So actually, it's bullish for us to bring more stuff here. And if tariffs change the trade portfolio, as long as the economy's growing, we'll be a part of it.
Okay, now we went over intermodal. That's doing great. Minerals and coal, still very big for you. And look, I understand coal. It's got its cons, and there's some pros because they may not have returned.
Yeah.
But coal still holds. You've gotten coal down. It's no longer going to impact you negatively. It probably actually works in your favor now.
It's, we think the next 3 years coal volume's pretty flat.
Right.
But that's growth in export, domestic utility down. That's good for our business because we get more revenue from export coal. But metallurgical coal, that is a bullish market. Everyone we talk to, India, Eastern Europe, a lot of the growth for coal, for concrete production, steel production, whatever. So we think there's going to be a market for coal for quite some time. It's our second largest customer segment. Intermodal, chemicals, and then coal. Right. It's going to be around for a while.
But I am worried about metals. The price of metals have come down. We were doing some work after you suggested to me that perhaps I should be thinking about steel. I am actually kind of flabbergasted how steel has kind of really got crushed here. How's that possible?
It's actually it's our biggest sector that's down this year.
I know.
And, some of that's auto. Auto production isn't up as much as we expected. So that's part of it. And part of it's just the pricing. And, I talked to a lot of the steel CEOs. They say it's cyclical and the pricing's down, but we need it to come back. But hopefully, if we start building more in America, we can get more steel production.
And I think that with interest rates down, it will come back. I've been looking at all the steel
We need housing and autos, both very price sensitive and also interest rate sensitive. If housing and auto can come up, steel will come up with it.
And how's ag? How are they doing?
They've been doing really well. The good Midwest harvest. We move a lot
You actually follow this stuff. You got to do all that, right?
We have to do all of that. The fun thing about being in the railroad is you touch all sectors of the economy and get to see it, what's up, what's down, what's moving, what's not. It makes it pretty fun.
Okay, the last one that is very, very big is chemicals. Now, I know you guys carry a lot of chemicals that are things that I don't necessarily want a car to go off the track. How much is safety in chemicals? How much does it matter?
It matters a lot. Actually 98%, I think the number is 98% of hazmat-related chemical accidents happen in trucking, not on rail. Rail is the safest way to move hazardous materials by far, and we move a lot of them. But it's our biggest customer segment. We're proud of the way we do it. It is important for safety. I'm proud of the industry's performance there. We can always get better. But it's a big customer segment and growing this year, importantly.
That's true. It's absolutely growing this year. And there are so many chemicals that we have the feedstock that's the cheapest in the world, so we should be taking advantage of it. That is Joe Hinrichs. He's the president and CEO of CSX. I can show you charts which make no sense to me. The charts of how well they're doing in business and how low their stock is, which makes no sense. And you should listen to what Joe says. Mad Money's back after the break.